Hey everyone, I'm Lindsay Hoffman and welcome to the Dose of Bliss show where I bring my favorite people to you and give you their daily doses of bliss. Today we have a mixing engineer, Matthew Weiss.
Hey, that's me. Whoa.
I was like pausing for a second, so I was like, I'm gonna say sound engineer. I'm not gonna say it wrong.
Sound engineer's fine too.
Yeah, you work with really crazy celebrities like Akon, and can you explain what a mixing engineer is?
So for Akon, I am the recording engineer, the vocal producer, and the mix engineer. For everybody else, I'm just the mix engineer. Mixing is taking the recorded music and making sure that everything that's been recorded as an individual element gets along really nicely and really presents itself to the end listener in the best way possible.
That's so cool. And what other, so for our viewers watching, what other cool people have you worked with?
Oh gosh, it's a long list.
The ones that stand out to you.
Boy, just this year, I just did a record with, I did 2 songs with Pitbull, Rick Ross, did one with a Chris Brown feature, Tory Lanez, Ozuna, Becky G, Farruko.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I feel so lucky that you're here and that we met doing karaoke at a party.
I mean, we were over at Stephen Slate's party.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that much of a coincidence, really.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I just did a tutorial, actually, for
really?
Stephen. He has a plugin company that they make software for what I do, and they have teachers come on to present how that software is used, and I have a tutorial of my own on that site. So it's the Slate Academy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
We'll have to I'm going to put it all in the bio below so everyone can look into everything you do and how cool you are.
There's going to be a long, I don't know about the how cool I am part, but
cool.
everything I do is going to be a long list.
Well, you're just cool, and what I wanted to start saying is you work with Pitbull and Akon and all these cool people. How do you get there? Because I think people will look at you and be like, wow, this guy is this big, mixing engineer working with celebrities, but you always have to start somewhere.
No, it's a slow grind. I'm in my mid-30s, and I've been at this since I was really in high school, so it takes a long time. So patience is probably the biggest part of getting there. But I started tooth and nail fighting for internships and assistantships, finally got an in-house position when I was much younger, then went freelance for a while, then finally decided I needed to be in LA because that's where the biggest part of the music industry is. Came out here, and the real crux of it is that I started renting a studio with Kanye's tracking engineer, and we were sharing the space, and I made it a goal in my mind to just make sure that even if I wasn't even breaking even on the space, just to constantly have people in, writers, producers, artists, so that I could start building my real network. That's how I met the Convict team and how I ultimately met Akon.
So just through having your studio and getting them in. And I was watching, some videos you made about yourself, and you were saying kind of about when you want something, sometimes you just have to do it for free and take an opportunity.
I mean, especially when you're starting out. I mean, even more than free, actually. There were times where I was helping the band pay to get into the studio so that I could do the work. And if I got a sandwich out of it, I felt like I was pretty special. And then even when I was getting paid, I mean, I did 3 back-to-back. I remember in New York, I did 3 back-to-back 17-hour days, and I got $300 for it, and that was my biggest payday that year. And that was a lot of work. So, I mean, it's taking every opportunity that you can possibly get. And even to this day, I still take opportunities where I don't necessarily get paid up front or in a direct way.
How do you know what opportunities to take and what ones to not take?
You don't. So when you're starting out, you just take all of them. Until you have to say no to something, you say yes to everything. And then it becomes a little more apparent where you have to say no eventually.
So where would you say no then for people? Because some people say yes to everything and then they don't know when to stop because you don't want to miss an opportunity.
I mean, the biggest one is an obvious thing, which is just budget constraints. I guess I'm bougie or something now, so I'm used to getting paid a certain amount. So if the budget isn't really there, then that's probably the first reason I would turn something down. Sometimes it's time frame. I had somebody call me at midnight on Sunday to try and book me for the next day over at Encore, and I was like, I'm not available. I would love to take it, but it's because that's a beautiful studio and it sounded like an interesting project, but time. So those are really the 2 main things, time and money.
There's something else that you had mentioned about money that I had seen is your McDonald's rule, which is something that I had done for my job interviews. So can you explain kind of what that is?
So the McDonald's rule is you sort of it kind of is against the idea of taking every opportunity. It's the flip side of that, which is figuring out how much an opportunity is really worth. When you break down the hours, the expenses, and everything that ends up coming out of pocket, does the job ultimately make more than what you would get just getting the McDonald's gig down the street at the Fry's? You know what I mean? A good example is, let's say you get a job where you're making like 15 an hour as a administrator or a secretary or something like that, but you have to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours every way to get to the job. So you have suddenly gas expenses and you have 4 hours taken out of your day. So you have to add 4 hours onto however many hours you're working. Now, if you were working an 8-hour day, you're actually spending 12 hours. So your pay divides by 12, not by 8. And suddenly you realize, wait a minute, once I factor in the gas expenses, I'm better off at Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a good point for people to know, because I kind of want to talk about the difference between those two, because there is a point where you say yes to opportunities, but I think the McDonald's things kind of comes in once people start offering you money and you kind of have something to base off of, then you're kind of like, okay, is this job paying me less than working at McDonald's? You know, that's kind of like a negotiating tactic as well.
There has to come a certain point where you say, okay, I'm no longer on my way up, I'm now in the professional sphere. And it's not always necessarily clear, especially in the arts, because there will always be times where you're being either lowballed or you're doing a gig just for a friend or some stuff where it really feels like you're at square one, no matter how far along you are. But there is a point in which you say, this is now my job, this is what I do as a working professional, and I have the experience and I have the skill to back that up. So once you feel like you're at that point, that's when you sort of have to start factoring them in the McDonald's rule, or having your standards that you say, well, if you want to book me, this is what I need.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of sets a precedence once you get there. And you earned it, though, because you did all those other things earlier. You worked there to get to that point, to get that confidence.
Well, it's also that you earn it in the sense that if somebody offers me a gig and I turn it down, it's because I can. Mm-hmm. There's no one gig that anyone can offer me where if I don't take it, I'm not going to be able to make my ends meet. And so because I'm at that point, it gives me the leverage to say, if you want me, you need to make sure that I'm taken care of. And then I will definitely be taking care of you. Mm-hmm.
And so back to like the beginning, taking any opportunity you want. I think a lot of people don't get that concept either, because you often, or I know I feel this way, sometimes I'll feel scared, like, oh, why am I taking this opportunity? Is this person going to take advantage of me? Or, there's like this way where you have to know kind of where that's going to take you next.
Well, people are going to take advantage of you. Mm-hmm. And it's not about taking the opportunities you want. It's about taking the opportunities. When you're getting your foot in the door, you take opportunities. And you will get screwed over. It's inevitable. It's happened to me several times, probably dozens. I can't remember most of them.
See, that shows it doesn't matter one day.
It doesn't matter, but there is a sort of solace in knowing that usually the people who screw you over sort of just tread water in their careers and their aspirations, and the people who really, act with other people's best interests at heart, they tend to get known for that, and they tend to rise to the top, at least in my experience.
No, that's in my experience too. Is like the good people recognize the good people.
Yes.
And the people that aren't in charge usually are the good people, because you don't really get there by screwing people over. No one wants to work with you if that's what they find out.
Yeah, it can only last so long. Maybe you can get over for the day, but you can't get over for the year,
So you said something, let me find this. I wrote it down that I really like that you said. You said something about how you're open to every opportunity that presents itself and, say yes for it, even if it feels like it's a waste of time. Can you kind of go into what that means a little bit more?
Well, everywhere that I've gotten in my career has come through time spent with opportunities that I'd taken in the past. Opportunities that didn't necessarily present themselves as even great opportunities. I worked with a producer for free for 7 or 8 years, just because that was allowing me to get better and it was allowing me to meet people, and then ultimately that's the person who introduced me to the Convict team. And so, I've been working with him for like 14 years or something. So that's a relationship and an opportunity that started out way before it ever even presented itself as an opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's why I came out to LA ultimately, is to make sure that I'm accessible to people, make sure that I'm here, and then make sure that people know who I am and what I bring to the table. And that requires taking opportunities.
And that's a big thing that really stands out that I don't think people realize, because people will say, why are you doing this for free? Why are you doing this? And you're like, the value that you get out of it yourself. Like, in your mind, you found the value that I'm learning, and it's going to take me somewhere eventually. Like, no matter what I take, or if you don't like an opportunity, okay, you don't like one, it will still take you to another opportunity. You can always change.
Yeah, I mean, if you do 100 different things, maybe one of them will stick. You'll probably forget the other 99 even happened, but that one that sticks is going to be really important.
And it was for you, and that's what made you get to that celebrity top level threshold that you envisioned yourself as.
Well, that, and also taking ownership of my own trajectory, because part of my career has been heavily supported by the educational platform that I work with. When I started as an in-house engineer in Philadelphia, I started sort of documenting my experiences. At first, it was just on a website where I was answering questions. It's just, people would have questions about audio. I was working in audio, so I'd go on there and answer, but, people seemed to like it. And a guy named Dan Cormachero contacted me and said, hey, I'm starting this blog called The Pro Audio Files. Would you write for it? I'll give you $30 an article. And I said, yeah, I'm doing it for free already, so of course. So building that platform up and just putting myself out there in every capacity as a decided thing is a very large part of that equation.
And you were also telling me you have that, is that the platform you were telling me about that you have, or your educational platform?
Yes, so the educational platform, it's called theproaudiofiles.com. Like I said, owned by my now friend Dan Cormachero, and I am probably the primary content provider, but there's some other content providers who are very talented as well on there. And yeah, that's running parallel to my career and has been for the last, gosh, I want to say, I think it's been 10 years now, officially.
So what's your goal with all of these things? Because obviously someone looks at you and you're like, this guy has ultimate success. You have your dream career, you have your now you have room for dreams to make side careers with it, your own businesses along with your other own business.
Yeah, well, first of all, success is not something that you have. It's something that you perpetuate. There's this idea that there's a finish line that you cross, but that's never true. You don't succeed, you are succeeding. So right now, I'm doing well, things are good. But if I stop, then I'm not doing anything. So I really want to grow my career out in a lot of different directions. I want to continue where I'm at for the immediate time being, where I'm working with these high-profile artists, I'm getting my name on these really incredible records. But then from there, I want to branch it into the other ideas that I've had, refocus back on education, double down on it, because I love that part of my career, and I think ultimately that's where I'm going to see myself. And then also get into some product creation. I had a concept for some luggage that I wanted to get into, and if it can happen, also get into the business side of the music world and help artists on a business level, not just on the creative level.
That just goes to show, though, you always think exactly what you said, people think success is a destination, but it's not. You're always growing, you always want new things, and it kind of goes into what we were saying in the other interview. You got to be grateful in the present moment, and you get there, and you're happy where you are, and then you do more things, and it's really cool, because I think people don't think that before they get successful when they're starting out. You think like, I'm going to get here and I'm going to feel a certain way, but it's always, everyone really feels the same inside.
No, I think a lot of artists, go through that the hardest, actually, because there's this idea that you get a hit record and then you've made it. And then you realize that when you get that hit record, you're actually just starting. And, for everybody who has been sold the myth that one hit record will land you enough money to set you for life, is completely fictitious. So no matter how successful somebody looks, they're all over Billboard and they're in the limelight and everything like that, actors, musicians, whatever, they're only as successful as they are in that moment. And if that dwindles, their success goes with it. So it really is something that you have to keep pedaling.
What do you find drives that pedaling? Because some people could be set back, I had this hit record and you think you're going to get another, or it's not always as easy as it seems. What keeps people going?
Well, I think it's different for different people. I think some people, what stops them is that they think myopically about what they want from life. And, they think, I want this hit record, or I want this lead role, or I want to be this. And then they do that, and then it stops or it hits a wall and they don't have a way to go around that wall or go over that wall because they don't have any concept of, not so much a plan B, but how to expand and how to grow. Whereas, you know, working with Khan, for example, he doesn't need to ever do music again for the rest of his life because his hands are in so many other endeavors that are enriching, that not only for monetary reasons, but also personal fulfillment, he could leave music completely behind. He's chosen not to, which I think is great, but it's available to him because he thinks on that level. And I see myself the same way, and so I feel like, you know, it's good to have that in front of me.
So when you say things that aren't business, can you go a little bit into that? Like how, you know, it's kind of like a balance of being successful and fulfilled and putting your hand in more than one thing. Like you're not just going to have one place and be happy.
Well, your mindset going into a day is going to determine the outcome of that day, no matter what's going on. If you wake up and you feel good about life, you're going to go through the day accomplishing things. Even if you don't have things that are immediate in front of you, you can start making the moves that you need to make because you're happy to be doing it. Whereas if you get trapped in this sort of, you know, failing mindset, or, you know, the various things that plague artists, plague anybody who's a working professional, it starts to spiral. And I think everybody goes through that to an extent. So making sure that you're on not just the business fulfillment side of things, the monetary side of things, but also paying attention to yourself, it's super important and super underrated.
Yeah, if you don't take care of yourself, how can you do anything else? Like at the end of the day.
How can you want to?
Yeah.
And
how do you have the energy to? Why
right.
would you?
You don't. You just stay in bed. And I think we've all had that moment where we've taken a tough blow or something has gone wrong and we wake up the next day and we're like, why did I even bother waking up? Let me just go back to bed. First, let me get a box of Teddy Grahams. Yeah. Second, let me get back in bed and throw on Netflix or something.
And hide for the day.
Yeah, and just hide. And, you know, and also being okay with having done that and being in that mindset and saying, you know what, it's totally reasonable to be there. Now it's time to move on.
Yeah, I mean, you can be there for a day, a few days, just don't stay there forever.
Don't stay there forever. Don't get trapped. People often think the opposite of happy is sad. That's not true. The opposite of happy is complacent. Happy and sad can happen at the exact same time. You can go to a funeral and be happy for someone's life and be sad that they're gone. But you can't be complacent and be happy. You can only be complacent and comfortable, but you can also be complacent and bored. So as soon as you get trapped into this cycle of being okay with spending the day in bed eating Teddy Grahams, which does sound great sometimes,
yeah.
It's fair.
Maybe when I'm like 90.
Or maybe if it's just been like you've been working for a couple of months and only had a few days off,
yeah,
and it's
vacation.
like, okay, today is going to be my fat and lazy day.
Yeah.
You know, but that's a different mindset. That's coming from a different place. But if you get okay with doing that and that being part of your heart, then it's going to wear on you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we only have a few minutes left, and I want to leave it on that because that is just so inspirational. But can you tell everybody where they can find you?
If you're an artist or a producer, what I want you to do is go to theproaudiophiles.com. It's an educational resource. Everything that you need to find about me is there, but more importantly, the information in how to get into the music business, make music, mix, record, that's what's there. So that's where you can find me.
Go follow it. And where can they find you on social media?
At Weiss Sound, which is WEISSSOUND, because I'm too old for social media.
Because you're too old for social media.
Yeah.
You got to find them because you don't know the mind behind the successful people, and you realize that you put the right things first. And that's kind of the key to success. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to follow me, I'm at Lindsay B. Hoffman. You can also go to my blog, doseofbliss.com. This show airs on my YouTube channel every Thursday. That will pop up on the screen. And if you want to binge watch the episodes that aren't on my YouTube channel yet, go to evertalktv.com or the EverTalk TV app. And we'll see you next time. Bye.